I always enjoy finding a new story regarding UFOs and extraterrestrials. Today, I have an interesting tale which originates in the former USSR. The Russians have a long history with UFOs, as long as almost any other country in the world. The Dyatlov Pass incident and the secret base at Mezhgorye that have both been covered here on the channel. I also recently looked at the alleged alien remains that were found in South America. It would seem Russia also has alien bodies. So let's dive into the bizarre case of Russia's Kyshtym alien. Welcome to IF, videos on history and mystery. Hit that subscribe button and ring that bell so you never miss a video again. For the longest time, there has been reports of carcasses and other types of remains from mysterious creatures turning up in all corners of the planet. These bodies and parts are sometimes attributed to cryptids, and other times they are said to be from another world. These dead bodies are usually discovered having been in some way preserved, be it natural mummification or a process carried out by man or possibly other beings. The discovery of these corpses sparks intense interest from many different groups. This due to the thought that they could be the evidence that proves life exists outside of this planet. I looked at the three-fingered mummies found in Nazca and the mistaken human remains which were discovered in the Atacama Desert of Peru. Both of these stories dealt with the remains of what were thought to be extraterrestrials. This Russian case is slightly different because the alien in question was found alive. This supposedly alien creature was said to have lived with and been taken care of by humans. It then vanishes and leaves a storm of questions swirling in its wake, going back to 1966 and an elderly Russian woman by the name of Tamara Prozvirina. This old lady enjoyed taking walks around her village. Living in the picturesque Ural region of the Russian mountain ranges, the elderly lady was a key part of this small village community. The village being located close to Kyshtym, it was from one of her walks that she returned clutching a small bundle. When asked what she was carrying, Tamara replied, "My baby." When asked where this baby had come from, the old lady described how she had found what she was calling her child under a tree near the local cemetery. Most thought that the woman was beginning to lose her sanity, the onset of dementia being to blame, and the idea of the child being a fantasy. But when they asked to see the child, the woman insisted it was real, but that they were not allowed to look at it. They should, however, know that the child was to be called Alyoshenka, and that was enough. As time passed, Tamara let her guard down and a select few got to see the baby. What they saw was shocking. The creature they saw, wrapped in swaddling, was no human child. These few people looked upon a being that was around 10 inches in length, grey in colour, and had mottled brown spots on its head. This description has my mind jumping to the Atacama mummy, both described in strikingly similar ways. The Atacama mummy was said to be human, this conclusion coming from DNA testing, but as I mentioned in the story, those remains had an 8% discrepancy in the results. Could this error actually be correct and the remains be alien? The small humanoid was very animalistic in its appearance, being completely hairless with large bulging eyes which had vertical pupils like those of a reptile or feline. Its face had a very small, thin-lipped mouth, small holes in either side of the skull rather than actual protruding ears, with no eyelids, and it was reported to make squeaking noises. Its breathing was laboured as it inhaled air through its tiny flat nose. The small body was also very strangely proportioned. It was obviously small. Its limbs were long and slender, and it had long thin fingers topped with sharp claws. It also exhibited no discernible navel or genitalia. This small body and slight features seemed to leave the creature with an inability to care for itself. This meant that the old woman became the primary caregiver for the creature. She fed the foster baby milk and curd as it was unable to chew more solid foods. As a treat, she said that she would allow it to lick caramel candies. The baby also behaved strangely, rarely moving or stretching its limbs, and it also sweated heavily, this sweat smelling sweet. All of this adds up to what would seem to be the only possible conclusion. This was not a human child. This fantastical story was corroborated by Tamara's stepdaughter. She explained that she would visit her mother-in-law a couple of times in a week. She would check in and make sure the old woman didn't need for anything, and that she was taking care of herself and managing to live alone. It was on one of these visits that she was shocked to find that the woman was not alone. Tamara showed her daughter-in-law the child. The daughter described the encounter saying, "She showed me to the bed. I took a closer look at it and I saw him. He was on top of the bed, squeaking some funny sounds. I could see his mouth was shaped like a small pipe. His tiny scarlet tongue was moving. I also spotted 2 teeth inside. In a way, he looked like a little baby. His head was brown and his body looked grey. I didn't see any eyelids. He didn't have any genitals either. His head looked like an onion, and the pupils of the eyes were widening and narrowing, just like the cat's eyes do when you turn on the light and turn it off again several times in a row. The fingers on his hands and feet were pretty long. I only bothered to ask my mother-in-law where on earth she got this monster from. She told me she found him in the forest. She kept calling him Alishenka. She gave him a candy and he started sucking on it. I thought it was some kind of animal. The thing was giving off that smell. You know, one of a kind. You can't take it for any other smell. Actually, the smell was pretty agreeable, yet somewhat nauseous at the same time." She goes on to say that the creature didn't pass any solid or liquid waste. He was sweating, and that was all. She says she witnessed her mother-in-law wiping the sweat off of the creature's face with a rag. The story spread through the village, and eventually it reached the ears of local officials. They expressed concern for the woman and assumed that this story was a sign of deteriorating health. They decided to step in and take the old woman into care. They went to the village house of Tamara and proceeded to take the old woman to an institution. As the woman was being taken away, she struggled and protested, all the time saying that her baby would die if it were left alone. Thinking the woman delusional, the cries fell upon deaf ears. As news of the old woman's departure spread through the village, curiosity grew as to what was inside of the house. A couple of days passed. By then, a man named Vladimir Nerdinov decided to investigate the home. He uncovered the creature dead, and somehow it had mysteriously become mummified. Maybe this was a natural process. The sweat of the creature was said to smell sweet. If it had a high enough sugar content, it would be able to preserve the remains. Sugar is often used as a preservative. Did this happen naturally with this small humanoid creature? The mummified remains were then allegedly taken away by the police, and this is the point when the story begins to get even stranger. The investigating man, Nerdinov, was arrested for stealing wire from Tamara's home. One of the arresting police officers took an interest in the body. He took it home and stored it in his refrigerator. He began documenting the creature using photographs and video. Later, he made claims that he had had the body tested by various medical experts. DNA was found in the samples, which didn't correspond with any human genes or arthropoid apes. None of the gene samples that were available at the laboratories used to sequence the DNA matched the genes of the creature. These experts in DNA research said that they hadn't come across any creature with such elongated DNA molecules. This is when once again we see similarities coming to pass that could link the Atacama mummy to this story. Other experts wrote the story off as fiction and claimed that it was nothing more than a deformed child. Another said it was a malformed fetus removed prematurely from the womb. Again, not everyone was behind the deformed human explanation, with another expert saying that it was not human and that it showed decidedly anomalous bone structure, organs and physiology, and he was uncertain of the creature's origins. The police officer who had taken the body believed the final expert and focused his research learning from those in the field of ufology. These researchers persuaded the man to hand over the body, and this is when it disappears. Trying to retrieve the remains, the man was stonewalled at every turn. He was greeted by excuse after excuse each time he investigated the location of the possible alien body. Maybe he was becoming a problem because, as with many that have had dealings with hard physical evidence of extraterrestrials on this planet, he was kept guessing as to what had become of his evidence. And as for the other crucial witness, Tamara Prosvirina, she was killed in an accident, mysteriously run down by two vehicles in 1999, shortly after being released from the state-run institute that she was taken to by officials. The cause of the accident was never seriously pursued. Witnesses said that she was dancing about in the middle of the road in some sort of trance before the accident happened. What was going on here? Was she killed by the people who wanted to keep this a secret, or was this just a freak accident with very coincidental timing? The death of Tamara put an exclamation point to the story. Since that day, things went cold, no one really knowing where the body of the Kyshtym dwarf has disappeared to. The only evidence of this story that is available today are the photos and video taken by the police officer, along with what is claimed to be the cloth used to wipe the sweat from the creature's body. Still, many believe that this Russian story is true, and that the Russian government has hidden the body. Those that think this is a hoax say it is no more than a human fetus. Another theory claims that it is a human fetus, but one which has been horribly deformed due to radiation. Kyshtym being the location of a nuclear disaster when 20 million Curie units of radiation were leaked from a broken container. This, the third worst nuclear accident after Chernobyl and Fukushima. What do you think this little humanoid was? Do you think it was an alien? If not, what do you think it was? Let me know in the comments below. If you like what I do here on the channel, hit that red button, like and share. You can catch the latest by searching We Are If. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time.